What are you waiting for? What is holding you back from a full relationship with Christ? When I was asked to do this, I kind of struggled with what I was going to talk about because there's so much to talk about, and it's hard to get on one topic and stay on one topic and not bounce around and using several different books of the Bible, and it's hard to contain it. But I decided it would be best for me to talk about something that I deal with, because I know what I struggle with, and I know what God can do for me and help me get out of that, in a sense. And I figured if I'm struggling with it, there's got to be someone else too. So what I'm going to be talking about today is commitment to Christ. We have the answer. We need to stop looking for questions. We need to stop looking for things to delay our full commitment to Christ. The passage I'm going to be reading from today is John chapter 1, verses 1 through 5 and 9 through 13. And I've always been intrigued by this passage because it's so complex and a little confusing. But not only that, it's really deep and really relevant to us nowadays. And that's why I chose it. Today, there are a lot of Christians bouncing back and forth between in love with Christ and falling away, and in love with Christ and falling away. And there needs to be some stability, and there needs to be some commitment. And I say this not as someone telling you that you're doing something wrong. I'm saying this as someone who's telling you that I'm doing this wrong and that I'm learning this along the way. And I want to share with you what I'm learning in my journey. So as Pastor said, most of you know me. For those of you who don't, I am a student at College of the Ozarks. I used to be an engineering major. I am now double majoring mathematics and Christian apologetics. So I am a glutton for punishment. I'm very analytical, and I like to think, and I like to have an order to things. And so that's the way I'm going to go through this sermon today. I'm going to open up with a truth claim. I'm going to back that up with the first half of this passage, and then I'm going to go into my claim and use this truth claim to back up my claim as well. So my truth claim here is Jesus Christ is God. Now that may seem like common knowledge for most of you who are Christian and who believe it, but something so broad and so easily grasped by Christians can be pushed to the back burner. The simple statement that Jesus Christ is God is the whole basis of our religion. If Jesus Christ is not God, what are we doing? What are we doing? So I'm going to go through this passage. You can join me if you want. It's John chapter 1, verses 1 through 5, and then 9 through 13. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And the true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. All right. Looking back in verse 1 and 2, I'm going to go through these in these little sections that I've made, and I'm going to dissect it verse by verse. And this screen here is going to go through and go and prove my truth claim that Jesus Christ is God. So looking through verse 1 and verse 2, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. The phrase "the Word" here is synonymous with Jesus. We can put Jesus in there. So in the beginning was Jesus, and Jesus was with God, and Jesus was God. Jesus was in the beginning with God. This tells us two things here. With God here shows that Jesus is separate from God, but was in relationship with God. But then it goes on to say Jesus was God, proving that Jesus still is God. Next, in verse 2, it shows that Jesus was in the beginning with God. So this tells us three things here. Jesus was here before creation. Jesus is separate from God. Jesus is God. This points towards the Trinity, and this just further proves the Trinity and goes along with all the other parts of the Bible where the Trinity is spoken of. Looking in verse 3, all things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. I spent so much time trying to figure out that last section, that last part. I kept saying it, and it was like, what is going on? It's just the same. It's the same thing as the first part. It's just flipped around. So all things were made through Jesus. Everything that was made through Jesus. This next part is saying, and I'm going to give it my best shot here, that everything that was made was not made without Jesus. Everything that was made with Jesus. This also proves that Jesus was not created by God. Jesus is God because he was before creation and everything was created through God. Looking in verse 4 and 5, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. This tells us two things. This proves the holiness of Jesus Christ because it tells us that he is light and life. Inversely, it states that he cannot be darkness and death. This is just further cementing his status as our Savior. So what have we learned through these 5 verses? 5 verses. This is crazy. That Jesus was with God. He's separate in relationship, has a relationship with God. He is God. Everything that has been created was created through Jesus. And not only that, he's our pure and righteous Savior. So now that we've proven that Jesus Christ is God, I'd like to go into the next half and go into my claim. Looking in through verse 9 through 11, the true light which gives light to everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. Jesus came into the world to save us from our sin. Yet the creation that was made through him rejected him. God was rejected by his creation. God was rejected by us, the ones that he loves the most. Think about that for a second. I want to say that again. God was rejected by his children. Going into verse 12 and 13, but to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, not of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. Not only do we reject him on a daily basis when we sin, we turn our backs. Everyone in here, myself included, have rejected God at one point or another. He still forgives us, and he still loves us, and he still reaches his hand out to us. He allowed those of us who reject him on a daily basis to be saved and be children of God. I had a joke here. I said, it's like we were playing Uno, and he gave us an Uno reverse card on our sin. But I couldn't find a way to fit that in, so but I really wanted to share that. But there's one really important thing to remember here. In verse 13, we were born not of blood, not of the will of the flesh, nor the will of man, but of God. We were saved through God's will, not our will. We were saved through God's plan, not our plan. And this is where commitment comes in. We are saved through God's actions and Jesus dying on the cross, and nothing we can do here on earth can save us. No amount of good, no amount of helping others and showing love and giving money or giving food or giving our time, nothing we can do can save us. It's through Jesus Christ alone. Now, this is not going to be easy. Jesus stated in Luke 9, verse 23, and he said to all, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me." Deny himself daily. That means not doing the stuff that we want to do. And that's something that's where I struggle with. In school, I have 15-hour work weeks on top of my school, on top of keeping up friendships, on top of wanting to work out and stay in shape and go on runs. I have to be able to deny myself of some of those things that I want to allow time for God. Along with this, and it doesn't sound very fun, but along with this, we have to take up our cross daily. I'll open ourselves up to persecution. We have to be okay with opening ourselves up to persecution and being pushed away by our peers. I said earlier that God was rejected by his creation, by his children. How much more likely are we to be rejected by our peers? Not only all of these things, it doesn't sound very fun, but I promise you that it's worth it. Now, how can I do that? How can I promise you? I'm 18 years old. I'm a mathematics major. Who wants to listen to one of those guys? How can I promise you that it's worth it? Eternal peace, grace, and eternity with God in heaven. No pain and suffering in heaven. Although times when we deny ourselves and are opened up to persecution may feel like an eternity here on earth, it's not. It's not. It can feel like forever, but it's not. Eternity in heaven is for eternity, though. And peace through our sufferings is, you can't measure it. It's priceless. Jesus came down to earth to have a relationship with us. What are we doing that's hindering that relationship? I have a song that I wanted to play, and I just wanted to take a moment to just reflect, because I know when I'm talking to somebody and telling people about what I'm struggling with, I'm more likely to hold it back when it's to someone else. But when you're talking to yourself, it's a lot easier to be open and honest. So listen to the lyrics of the song, pray, whatever, but just take this time to really take inventory of what's going on in your life and what are you doing to hold yourself back. I could say to try to persuade you one way or another. There's a lot of things that I could try to do to make you think a certain way, but this is a relationship. This is not my choice for you. This is not your parents' choice for you or your best friend's choice for you. This is your choice for yourself, whether or not you want to pursue a relationship with Christ. I listed all of the rewards that come with it, the peace and eternity in heaven, but not only that, you get to have the closest relationship that is humanly possible with your Savior, and you can help people along the way, which I believe is one of the greatest rewards that anybody can receive on this earth. So I just want to leave you with this thought and then open up the altars. If anyone wants to pray about the things, you can pray at your seat, come up front, it doesn't matter. But we have the answer. His name is Jesus Christ. Stop looking for questions to delay this relationship.